Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Common Sense with Dr. Ben Carson. I'm your host, Ben Carson, and today we have a fascinating guest. She grew up during the Mao Zedong Chinese Cultural Revolution. She survived that, escaped communism, came to America, and now she has a dire warning for us in the United States. You know, it was Khrushchev who said to Eisenhower over 60 years ago, "Your grandchildren's children will live under our system." And it's very interesting the things that go into making that kind of conversion. We're going to talk about some of that today. Z has a new book out called Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning. And welcome, Z. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been so looking forward to this interview.
Well, your life story is a fascinating one. And the first question I'd like to ask you is, what was growing up like in the Chinese Cultural Revolution?
That's a big question. And I can, just simplify it. During the Cultural Revolution, and what I experienced was total chaos, absolute chaos. School closed, and many of the institutions destroyed. And so, as a little kid, we all know that it is very important that we stay in the right lane, and that lane is whatever the party told us to do, and that is to, so that's how you survive, right? If you step out of the line, you know what's going to happen to you and to your family. So it's really, thinking back, and it's really, everyone was in the survival mode, and try to say the right thing, try to think the right thoughts, try to behave the right way, so you will be not targeted by the red guards.
Well, before Mao came into power, and before there was all the influence from Stalin, what was life like in China?
Well, that is again another a big question, and of course I was not there, and I was born in 1959, but I do know a little bit of my the story that I heard from my parents. China was a divided country, and China was really was under control a lot of the Western powers, and they call China a semi-colonized country, and it's not totally colonized. So the communists really made this a goal for their revolution to overthrow the oppression of the imperialism. So that's what my father, and especially my father, bought into this idea that communism will save China, communism will create a better world, a better society for everyone, and that's why he joined the communists, and so did my mother. And well, it did not end well for for anyone. What we got was a new oppressor, and that oppressor is the communist and the Communist Party, the CCP. They become the new oppressor, and everyone else become the victim.
Was there uh, something that you might akin to a Chinese culture that was kind of destroyed by this new ideology that came in?
Absolutely. Communism have to destroy the old culture, because communists, people still have this misunderstanding. Of course, it's on purpose. That's what they were taught, that communism is an economic system, the system that will share wealth, redistribute the wealth, so everyone will have the same amount and everyone will be happy. But it's not. Communism, the best way to understand it, it is really a religion. It seeks to control every aspect of people's lives, where you can live, what kind of job you should have, whether you are qualified to go to college, and then what you can access, what kind of information you should access, what you can say, and what you're allowed to think. So it is absolutely a system of controlling everyone. And that is real what communism is about. And of course, the young people don't understand it. They thought it's a utopia. People still believe in utopia after 100 million people died under communism because they were never taught the real history.
It really is pretty amazing. And isn't it interesting that there's an American culture which seems to be under attack in our country right now? Have you
Yeah.
noticed a similar type of thing starting to occur?
I noticed, actually, I noticed quite a while ago, and a lot of little things here and there started with the political correctness. You know, you should say this, you can't say that, and then the rule keep changing, and that just remind me of Cultural Revolution. You're allowed to say certain things, and if you say it wrong, well, you will be either uh, struggled against in the struggle session, or you'll end up in prison or gulags or get executed.
But do you remember at all as a little girl the hunger that seemed to be prevalent in China?
That was before I was born,
Okay.
and that was or just after I was born. So I don't have personal memory, but the whole Cultural Revolution, my memory of growing up is deprivation. We never had enough, and we were everything is rationed, food, meat, cooking oil, toothpaste, anything you can think about was rationed. We just everyone was in starvation mode. It's just like it's not as severe as the famine, the 3 year famine, which lasted 3 years from 1959 to 1962. That claimed more than 50 million Chinese lives.
Wow. I don't think most people really have a concept of it.
They don't know. They absolutely have no idea. They don't have idea because they're not taught, and they're not taught because it was by design. It's absolutely by design because our institution, educational institution, academia, and now public school have been infiltrated and captured by American Marxists, and they have one goal. They
Right.
have to train the students as future activists, the future Red Guards, like Mao's Red Guards.
And I think they probably found that the students were relatively naive and much more easily manipulated,
It's
which seems to be what's going on in our country right
it's
now too.
exactly like Lenin said, "Give me 4 years. The seeds I sowed in the mind of the children will never be uprooted."
Right.
Something like that. 4 years. Actually, now it took less because I think Project Verita uncovered a teacher in California. He said, "Just give me like how many months he can transform a student from a normal student to a revolutionary."
Now, in China during the Cultural Revolution, uh, if you said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing, what what were the series of things that would be done to you? Would it just be don't say that anymore? We don't
Oh,
allow
no, no,
that,
no, no,
or
no, no,
what? What was the progression?
no, no, no. That's no. That's Mao said this. Mao said, "Revolution is not a dinner party." So, Dr. Carson, you're thinking about dinner party. Don't say it again. No, revolution is violence. That's what Mao said, and that's what those red guards chanted. If you said something wrong, you will be struggled against. That's what the struggle session is about. It's a public trial. They can not just give you a little warning. They will take you and put you on the stage and have all the masses gathered, and you will be denounced. A lot of times beaten, sometimes killed. So there's no tolerance whatsoever with the wrong thinking. Wrong thinking should be totally uprooted and destroyed. Only one thinking is allowed. That is the correct thinking. That is Mao Zedong thought that we all have to learn. We all have to memorize, and then not just memorize. We have to carry out in our daily lives.
So
What is that?
it was the
Thought
ultimate
control.
cancel culture then. Huh?
Exactly. Control. Okay. Cancel culture can cancel tangible things like statues and books and street names, institution names. But ultimate goal is cancel everything in your mind so that you have the Marxist, the Maoist thought, and so we all become robots. No thinking is allowed. And that's what happened to me. I could not think. How could you think? Thinking, critical thinking, really requires you have different sources of information, and then you compare and you come up with your own conclusion. When you only know one version, everything is fed by the party. There is only one truth. That's party's truth. There is only one version of information that's party's information. You can't think. I could not think. I did not do any thinking in my first 26 years.
Well, it seems almost unimaginable that something like that could happen in this country, and yet we see the seeds of it
Okay.
every day now.
Every day. And I would say that the American Marxists are brilliant. Okay, in China, they use power to control the access of information. So I have no access of any other information. Everything was controlled, right? So I could not think because I have no other way of getting different information. But in America, the information is there. The information is one click away. But yet, those indoctrinate kids, they stay in their safe zone. They don't venture out. They don't want to know what's on the other side. And so, in a way, don't you think they have a better control tactic than the CCP?
Absolutely.
Those are volunteer to stay in the safe zone. They do not go out.
How were they able to get people to agree so readily with these radical changes? I mean, why did people go along with it?
Well, in China, I have to say, there's just you don't have any way out. Everything was controlled by the government, and so here we're talking about children belong to their parents. In China, it was clear. Everyone understood. Your children do not belong to you. Your children belong to the party. As parents, your task is to make sure your children prepare themselves to be the tools of the party. So that was started in the very beginning, that they absolutely indoctrinate the children, and to the point that if there's a conflict between choosing your parents or your party, you choose always your party.
Wow.
So that was always the case. But here, how they indoctrinate the children to the point that they do not want to know the other side of the opinion. It's also the same thing.
Wow.
Because the Marxists, they control school, they control media, they control entertainment. Everything that the children fed to were Marxist ideology.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. If you look at the Congressional Record for January the 10th, 1963, the 45 Goals of Communism in America, number 40, I believe, was to drive a wedge between parents and their
Parents,
children, and to make
absolutely.
parents the ones at fault for any faulty ideas that arise. It's
Yes.
pretty amazing, the stuff 60 years ago. So
I know when I read that, it gave me just goosebumps. They were so successful. They are widely successful, and yet the conservatives mostly were asleep. We did not really understand the threat posed by those American communists
yeah,
until now, and we start to fight back, and that's why it's amazing to see that all our institutions are fallen, all of them, every one of them, including the military.
Well, it's fascinating to see how the universities have been completely captured, and
Absolutely.
to the point that the prestigious universities of our country are not necessarily places you want to send your kids anymore.
No, you can save your money, send them there, Harvard, Columbia, whatever, Yale. Your children come back, and you can hardly recognize them. They have, they don't share your value. They don't like the country, and especially for immigrants, the parents really have to work so hard to be able to come to this country to give their children a better future. And then they work hard, send their children to the Ivy League. The children come back, they hate this country.
How did you escape? How did you get out of
Okay.
there?
Yeah, I know. A lot of people call me refugee. No, I'm not a refugee, and I'm not a defector. So after the Cultural Revolution ended, when Mao died in 1976, China was in absolutely ruins, and the CCP was really bankrupt as an ideology. No one believed it. The country was in ruins. And then the next leader, Deng Xiaoping, knew that there's only one way to save China. That was open China up and bring in foreign investment. And so, because his policy of opening up, and we started to have the foreign business, people come to China and open up business, and also we were allowed to go to other countries, and that was absolutely impossible during Mao's era. We could not even go out of our cities easily. We just absolutely, everyone has very little freedom of movement. So that was yeah, and I'm just grateful that I survived the Cultural Revolution, and I worked in the countryside for 3 years to get my re-education, but still I was able at an age of 19 to go to college and later come to America.
Now, there was something in China during the Cultural Revolution called Reeducation Camps.
Yeah.
What exactly were those, and what happened in those?
Actually, that existed the day one after they took over China in 1949. A re-education actually is not necessarily a camp. Re-education is something every person have to undergo, because everyone had a lot of wrong thoughts in their mind, because they come from the old China. They got all this old ideas and old culture that had to be really cleaned up. But for the camp are for those who condemned as the enemy of the state. And it's basically a gulags. And because communists believe that how the way to reform someone is through physical labor. So they're all sent to the those condemned as the rightist or condemned as the enemy of the state. They're all sent to the re-education camp or labor camp. And but that is not, that's what I'm trying to say, it's not just those who are condemned, but everyone should re-educate ourselves, and it's a lifetime process. You never get it done.
What happened to the people in China who were well-to-do, who had a lot of material wealth during the
Well,
Cultural Revolution?
okay, so those people are classified as the black class. If you own property, if you own land, you automatically become the enemy of the state.
Mhm.
So they're all grouped together and called the black class. And then the others, the have-nots, the proletarians, they were called the red class.
Mm.
So from the very beginning, Mao used weaponized identity politics to divide the Chinese people. So it's in the beginning, it was have versus have-nots. But eventually, the black class become the class for those who have wrong thoughts, who have the thoughts that's supposed to be bourgeois, not proletarian. So eventually, many people that were in the red class condemned into the black class. And that's what I really want to let American people understand. The same thing is happening here. Okay, so the CRT, critical race theory, preaches that, the white people are natural born racist. They are born racist. And then the black people are born victims because they are born oppressed and the others oppressors. Same thing as what Mao did in China. But eventually, that is not about the class. Just like here, it's not about the race.
Right.
It's really about ideology.
And it
So
really
you can be
it's the same thing. It's just
same
a way
thing.
to divide people.
Yeah. So you can be proletarian in China, but you dare to think the wrong thing, thinking the wrong thought, you're condemned to the black class. And here you are just a perfect example. You are a black conservative. You got the wrong thoughts, right? You got the wrong thoughts. Now you're condemned as the blackface of white supremacy.
Right.
Exactly the same tactic. So it's never about the class, and it's never about the race. It's about thought control. It's about ideology.
Well, you gave a speech in Loudoun County at the county school board that went viral, and you make some of those comparisons between CRT and the Cultural Revolution. What gave you the courage to do that? You could have just been quiet and
I know. I have been so quiet, and I never get involved politically. And I did vote every presidential election because I thought that's my duty, and I could not vote. I could not have any voice in China. So, but I really did not understand the issues that much because I paid no attention, and that is something I try to warn the immigrants or American in general. And we have to pay attention. We have to get involved. And so since 2020, when I saw the BMMs, the Antifa burning our cities, and looting and everywhere, and I said, this is absolutely a full-blown Marxist revolution. I have to get involved. I left China more than 30 years ago, and I thought I left communism behind me, and I thought I will come to this country and live happily ever after, because this is America. What can go wrong, right? Why do I don't need to get involved? Everything will be just fine. And it was just the difference between Republican and the Democrats is just how to do certain things, but they all love America. Wrong. So in 2020, I realized communism has absolutely taken roots here, and their goal is not a difference between how to improve this country. We just have different way of doing it. No. Now they want to destroy this country. They want to destroy the system. They want to destroy the institution. They want to destroy everything that make America. So that's why I said I don't want to live under communism again. I came all the way to escape it. I would not just see it taking over this country. So my motivation is very selfish. I just do not want to live under communism again, and I know for a fact no one wants to live under communism.
Absolutely.
But they don't understand.
Absolutely. Well, I laud your courage and your willingness to get involved. What was the reaction of people around you and people who knew you after that speech?
Well, yeah, I did. That was a bomb to a lot of people. A lot of people, like my friends that I have lost touch, emailed me or text me and thank me for speaking to for the silent majority. I was like, that is the problem. Why the majority is silent, but also there are other people just distant from me, and actually after that, I lost contact with all my friends who are on the other side, and I know that in some of my lefty friends who are Chinese, who also experience the same thing like me, but they're on the other side. They say, "Ha, she thinks she's white. She's never going to be white, and the white people will never accept her." I think those are familiar to a lot of black conservatives, right? They will never accept you, and you think you're white. So yeah, so I have a feedback from both sides, and I thought that's really really interesting.
Yeah.
And there's just so many people just bought into the victimhood.
Well, it's funny because when I was in high school, a lot of kids would accuse me of trying to be white because I was
Yeah.
academically doing very
Hmm.
well. And I said to them, well, if being smart is acting white, then what is being black? They never had an answer for that.
I know that is they are attacking everything that is good. They are attacking excellence. They are attacking hardworking. They are attacking everything that is good, and call it white supremacy.
In communist China, there was a lot of death, some of it caused by the economic conditions that led to great famine, some of it caused by political persecution. Um, how can we stop that from happening in this country?
Yeah,
Or
I
is
have
it
to
too
add.
late?
Yeah, I have to add, you said some is by the disastrous policy, such as the 3-year famine, Great Famine, and some is by political persecution. But a lot of it is by the masses killing each other. And how they do that? Because the CCP divide them. They divide them into two classes, as I said earlier, black and class and the red class. And they absolutely mobilized the people, divide them, and made them hate each other so much that they are willing to kill the other side.
And didn't
And
didn't they
so,
actually allow some of the student groups to brutalize others, and the police would not intervene?
yes, that was the American, the Chinese version of defund the police. They did not defund it. They dismantled the whole criminal justice system. All the police were told, if the red guards hit you, you are not to hit back, and the police were not allowed to go to campuses. That's where the initial violence took place. They absolutely dismantled the whole justice system. So yes, and so when there's no one to stop the red guards, started with destroying everything, and eventually started to killing people
Mm,
because there's no consequence. And so we are almost at that point,
yes.
and we are dangerously close to that point. And so eventually, the Red Guards killed many, many people and then start to fight against each other. So they overthrew all the institutions. They thought it's time for them to share power. No
Yeah.
way. And Mao used the military and suppressed them and sent the rest of them to the countryside to be re-educated. So a good example for the social justice warrior today in America. Your useful idiots for the progressives right now, but when they got power, complete power, absolute power, you were the first one to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish people would really take time to study what happened in China and what happened in other places that converted to communism, and just see it's always a consistent pattern in the way
It's
that it's
always,
done. And we can
yes,
see it happening now, and it never leads to a good place. And
never.
there are all kind of promises of utopia and everlasting happiness, but it never happens. And I just don't understand, why people can't see that. But a lot of it has to do with ignorance and only being taught one thing and suppressing all the other information and indoctrination. And that's why they work so hard to get into our schools. And in a way, COVID was a blessing to us. So we found
Mhm.
out what was going on in the schools or the whole thing might have been accomplished without us even knowing what was going on.
Absolutely. I think there are two things that wake up so many people. Otherwise, we will probably still won't notice anything until it's too late. One is 2016. Donald Trump, because of him, the progressives, the radical left, was really scared.
Yes.
They turned the heat too fast, too high, and then the boiling frog, that's the rest of us,
Right.
finally feel the heat, right? That woke up a lot of people. And then COVID, that woke up even more people, especially parents.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people have been awakened by the attempt of the progressives to use the justice system to eliminate Trump as an opponent. And whether you like Trump or not is not important. What is important is, are we going to allow our system to be utilized in that way? Because if we do, then the free and fair America that we've known is gone. It's gone forever. You'll never get it back. And I think a lot of Americans actually realize that. And that's why the more they indict him, the more his poll numbers go up. Americans are actually smarter than the progressives think they are. And they actually see what's going on and have some implication and some indication of what's going to happen if we continue down this pathway. But what you're doing is so vitally important. And, where can people find out more about your work and get your book?
My book is available anywhere the major booksellers are, and Amazon, and Barnes and Noble. And so I really ask people, if you get it from Amazon, please leave a review. Also, I'm very active in X, the former Twitter. I tweet almost every day, and I do the same thing. I lay out the parallels between America and South China, and that's what my book is about: the parallels of these two cultural revolutions. And I gave people information about history, what happened before and what's happening now. So please follow me, and my handle is X Van Fleet, XVANFLEET.
Well, I want to just thank you. Let me ask you one last question before we finish about communism. It doesn't seem to be very friendly toward religion. Why is that?
Yeah, it's in the Communist Manifesto. They said clearly, they stated clearly, they want to abolish private property, they want to abolish religion, and they want to abolish family. And to me, when they say religion, they really, really means Christianity,
Right.
because only Christianity posed the mortal threat to communism.
Right. Because the family becomes the central portion of what you're doing, along with your faith in God. And
Yes.
and that means that there's no room for the government to be in control of everything.
Because they want to be communism is a religion. It is not simply an economic system. Religion, they want to replace anything else. And that's the cancel culture. That's everything that we talk about. It is to replace the traditional value, and so that we all become believers of communism.
Well, a lot of people will hear you and they'll be distressed, but other than being distressed, what can they do?
Just like me, get involved. 3 years ago, I was just as quiet as any typical Asian American, mind my own business. But I know that I cannot go on mind my own business, but because this country that we love so much is being destroyed. So you have to get involved. Get involved in your local politics. Support the candidates for school board that represent your value, and pay attention to what's happening in school. And you don't have to be parent. Of course, parents should do that. You can be, your grandparents, or if you don't have children, you pay attention, because the children are the future of this country, and we have to stop the indoctrination.
Amen. Well, as the saying goes, the only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing.
Yes,
And
yes, that's so true.
I think you are the epitome of that. And I just want to thank you on behalf of our listening audience and of America in general for your courage to stand up for what is so important. America used to be the shiny city on the hill, the beacon of freedom. And we're losing that very rapidly. But it's not too late to turn it around.
No.
But we have to be courageous. We have to stand up for what we believe in. And we have to be willing to fight for it. And as Ronald Reagan said, our freedoms are only one generation away.
That's true.
So thank you so much for what you're doing. I hope people will get your book and follow you, what you're doing, and spread the word. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. And thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Z Van Fleet as much as I did. What a courageous woman. And what a patriot. To be willing to suffer the slings and arrows of being out of tune with the progressives, and to speak truth to power. Understanding what we have to lose. Having seen it, having lived through it, she knows what is coming. She sees the foundation being laid. We, the American people, have got to be smart enough to understand that what we have is amazing, and it's created the most successful civilization in history. Are we going to throw that away for what so many others have done? They've made the mistakes. The difference between a fool and a wise person. A fool doesn't learn from other people's mistakes, and a wise person does, and alters their course to make sure they don't suffer the same fate. We can do that. We must do that. It's not too late. For the sake of our children, our grandchildren, and all those who are coming after us, and because of all the sacrifices those made who came before us, it's our turn to stand tall and strong, recognizing that there may be turmoil in our lives, but it will be well worth the fight. Well, that's it for this week. Please subscribe for free. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Don't miss any episodes. Tell your friends about us, rate us, and help spread common sense. Let's make it common again. And remember the cornerstone principles: faith, liberty, community, and life. See you next week.